We go to our next guest. He is joining us via the magic of Skype. He joins us from beautiful Miami, Florida. He is manager extraordinaire, the one and only Malki Kawa, who last time when he joined us from this very spot, there are a bunch of shoes, I believe, in back of you. No more shoes. What's going on? Where are all the shoes?
I took them home. I took them all home.
That's it.
I took them all home. Yeah, it's enough. They told me, well, the thing is we're redoing this office. I'm getting it completely gutted, and I'm redoing it.
Okay.
So I had to start taking my stuff home. But I've got like 1,000 posters and a bunch of things I have no room for. So I had to start taking. I have a whole storage for my sneakers. I have a whole bunch of sneakers. So whatever. I just had to take them out of here.
Of course, one of the many reasons why we wanted to have you on the show was to talk about your client, Jon Jones. But I want to get the breaking news out of the way first. Another one of your clients, Melvin Guillard, was just announced like 2 hours ago, maybe 3 hours ago, that he has signed with Bellator, released from World Series of Fighting late last week, and now with Bellator. What happened there? Why did he get released?
Well, I mean, so really simply put, because I don't want to get into the problem that Melvin and them had between each other, but Melvin missed weight with them a couple of times. They were upset with him. He started, I guess, this last fight, started getting his medicals in late. I think they didn't feel he was going to show up to the fight or be cleared to fight, which I disagreed with, and they pulled him off the card. So I simply called Ali, my good friend Ali for that matter, right?
Yes.
And I was like, listen, bud, you guys obviously, are not happy with him. He's not happy this way. Let's just give me the release and let's just go our separate ways and call it a day. And I think that actually hats off to Ali. He kind of made the tough call because a lot of the people at the World Series of Fighting didn't want to release Melvin per se. And I think Ali kind of understood, where everything was headed to and how it was going. Him being a manager and understanding our position, he went back and he's like, look, guys, I don't think this is going to work. So they gave us the release, which, we're happy about and we're cool with. And I appreciate that they did that. And what do you call it? We went ahead and got him signed with Bellator to a phenomenal deal with Bellator. And I'm very excited about working with Bellator. And I know I'm the guy that, about maybe a year ago or so said would never, ever work with Bellator. So
it's a new day.
Yeah, but it's a different thing now, Ariel. I mean, Scott Coker is a great guy. He's so stand-up. It's unbelievable. And, Rich Chow is great. And it's easier to work with those guys. And I'm excited to see what Bellator really is all about. I can't make a comment, good or bad, yet because so far just the contract part of it was awesome. It was great. And they gave him a very fair deal. It was better than his UFC deal, even coming off of losses. So I can say that part about them already is awesome. And with that being said, I'm excited to see what they're all about and see what working with Scott Coker is really about. Everyone says nothing but great things, so I'm excited about it. Looking forward to it.
Was there interest from the UFC?
I didn't even try, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And I don't think there was any interest from us at this point, to be honest with you. Just not, and I don't mean in a bad way. It's just more like I didn't want to take them back there. Just the offer from Bellator was that good, and I don't think they were gonna do what they were doing for him. So.
Okay, let's get to Jon Jones. Of course, you are very much linked to him. You have been with him for quite some time. What has the last week been like for you? A little more than a week since this all happened Sunday morning. For you personally, what has it been like?
From there's two different aspects of it, right? Because he's my client, so it's obviously stressful from that part, and then he's also my friend, so it's very stressful from the relationship that me and him have. It's just stressful. It's just very, very stressful. A lot of questions and things of that nature, and just anything that you would do, if you care about somebody and you see somebody go through anything, good or bad, you have emotions about it. And that's basically kind of what it's been like.
How would you describe his current mood and state right now? I mean, he's had some time to digest this. I'm sure the aftermath, the hangover, if you will, like it happened, it was probably a shock, and then he's stripped and he still has a lot more to deal with. I'm sure that was almost worse in a sense. What's he like almost a week later?
He's focusing on himself.
Okay.
He's focusing on himself right now. That's what I can tell you.
Okay, and for you, I mean, you have received some criticism, right? I mean, people have thrown around the word enablers and, people who are surrounding him who aren't doing right by him. Have you taken any of these comments to heart? Do you feel like you're being attacked here? Your integrity is being attacked?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you don't care, and I know sometimes I say I don't care what people say, but it's tough to not care when your kids are getting it at school. I keep going back to this. If people say it about me, and this is my daughter's the one that comes back home and says, Dad, kids are saying that you're the one doing this, and I'm like, and it's tough because then it's not me trying to defend myself to you guys or the media or the fans. It's my little kid that I have to look at and say that. But Ariel, at the end of the day, I really honestly at the end of the day don't care, because if people know me, the ones who do know me know that I'm not an enabler. I'm not a guy that's, looking to harm any of my clients. And I also think that you got to just kind of look at everything as a whole, right? I've got 70 clients. You know what I mean? Why am I then picking on Jon Jones? Why
Right.
do I want to see him do bad? And that's where I think people just don't get it and don't understand it. And it's all good. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I'm not going to try to sit here and make an argument or a case for myself. You know what I mean? I think it's way beyond that at this point. I don't even care. Cause listen, here's the point. He left Ithaca, went to Albuquerque, right?
Yeah.
Would we say that Greg Jackson is an enabler? Is Brandon Gibson a leech or a hanger on? Are those guys that we've known, over the past 10 years, bad people? Is Mike Winklejohn not a good person? You know what I mean? Is Izzy? So they can criticize me, the coaches, everyone, and at the end of the day, I think we've all learned that people are just going to find someone to pick on, and if I'm that guy, then I'm that guy.
It is true.
I'm okay with it.
It is true that you have a very impressive client list. You've had champions, former champions, all that stuff, and other non-MMA fighters. But one could make the claim that he is your biggest client. He is your most popular client, your best client, all that stuff. So then they could say, well, you cater towards him. You don't tell him when to say when. You don't try to stop him. You're a yes man to him. We've seen this before. What do you say to those people?
You know what, Ariel, at the end of the day, again, I think I'd rather wait till one day, if Jon Jones writes a book or does a movie, that they can portray the fights that me and him have had and the things that, both ways. I mean, listen, let me put it to you like this. He's my number one client by far. I don't know that I would have had a lot of the same success that I would have had without having him as a client. Mm-hmm. He's been a tremendous friend. He's been a good friend to me, my brother. He's been awesome to my kid. My whole family loves him. We love him. I love him. You know what I mean? So if somebody thinks that I'm a yes man, then I think the best person to answer that question would be Jon himself when he decides to talk to you guys. You ask him that. Because I think, people got to realize that, his income and his well-being, I derive an income from that, right? So take away the friendship and everything else. I derive an income from that. So if I'm just gonna, yeah, sure, Jon, no problem. Let's just go do, whatever you guys think that he does or doesn't. You know what I mean? And that if you think that I'm there saying let's go, then you guys are crazy. I mean, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. He's the boss. He tells us what to do and what not to do. But we all are men and we have our own opinions and we voice them and we put them out there. But I mean, I just think that a lot of people have a lot of things wrong. A lot of things are mixed up in this whole situation, the scenario. And again, Ariel, I don't think that today or your show is going to be the right. I'm not going to be able to change anyone's mind. Does that make sense?
Sure, absolutely. If someone believes something, they're going to believe it, and you could say a whole bunch of stuff. Can you look back at the past, this run as champion, and say, you know what, in hindsight, I should have done this. I should have put him here. I shouldn't have let him do that. Do you take any of the blame?
What are we talking about? I mean, what do you say blame? I mean, like at the end of the day, let me ask you this question. We forget all the great things he's done.
Absolutely.
We're quick to forget everything he's done, and we're quick to judge, right? We're quick to judge. We're assuming that everything we're hearing and reading is the truth, right?
Yep.
Okay. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys in hindsight that I wish I would have done this different or that different, because in honesty, I don't. I really don't. There's not. I mean, let me ask you this question. If I send Carlos Condit down to Brazil for an appearance, right? And the place catches fire and he gets injured, right? In hindsight, I wish I never would have sent him down there. But if he goes down there and he comes out of it perfectly fine, but there's an issue that happened because of whatever it is, then it happens. I mean, I'm not going to be that guy that's going to sit here and tell you I wish this and that would have been different, because I can't pinpoint a position or any. Okay, you got to give me a scenario. I mean, I remember Dana White when we first told him about the mugging when the thing happened in New Jersey, right before his title fight. He was like, "Are you kidding me? You're gonna give me a heart attack." Well, if I would have known that there was going to be a mugging in that park, I wouldn't have put him there. Not to save the lady or not save the lady. I just never would have put him there, because you don't know what the outcome's going to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I mean, are you following what I'm trying to say? There's nothing. I can't guarantee you that there's something that I wish I would have had him do or not do, because I think the majority of everything that has happened around his career, people are taking the DUI, the positive cocaine test, and this situation now and saying, oh my God, and coming to a lot of conclusions based on him. You take those three scenarios out, he's the greatest fighter that we've ever had. He's the greatest champion we've ever had. And I don't know where I would have possibly not put him in a certain position. Does that make sense?
Were you surprised when the UFC stripped him? Did you think they would do that?
I was very surprised. I didn't think they were going to do that.
What
I don't
about?
think they should have.
That was my next question, but I just want to ask: what about the suspension? What about just suspending him indefinitely? Were you surprised about that?
I'm not surprised by it. I kind of thought that's something that they had to do. I don't necessarily agree with it, but
Okay.
it's something that I thought that they had to do.
So then let me ask you about the belt. Why don't you agree with it?
Jon Jones won that belt inside the octagon.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody beat him for the belt, right? That's just one case in itself.
Sure.
But on the other hand, we're jumping to a lot of conclusions. We haven't let things play out. He hasn't had his day in court.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it's okay to just, hand punishments down like that. But I do definitely understand where the UFC and sponsors and everyone is coming from. I can totally understand.
So since this is kind of this strange situation where this happened and he has a fight already booked, like sometimes it can happen where he doesn't have a fight and you can just keep him on ice, but he had a fight rapidly approaching. Do you think they should have kept him on the card? Because there's no way this is going to be resolved based, it's 19 days away at this point, by May 23rd. So do you think they should have just let him fight?
You know what, Ariel? Again, I'm a firm believer that whether it's Jon Jones or any athlete, right? When somebody's been accused of doing something, no matter what it looks like or doesn't look like, I believe that they should have an opportunity to defend themselves first, have an opportunity to have their day in court. But if we go back to like the NFL, if you look at Ray Rice, Adrian Peterson, they weren't allowed to play. You know what I mean? And then they went and had a lot of their stuff overturned, and a lot of things came out later that showed worse things and things that maybe weren't as bad as it first was perceived. I'd rather see leagues hand punishments out after people have had their day in court, but I can understand, the court of public opinion sometimes reigns supreme. So I can understand that this had happened. So for me to tell you that I wish they wouldn't have suspended him, I think that that'd be me coming from a biased place. You follow what I'm trying to say? But I think we totally accepted the suspension. I thought they had to do it. I agreed, when they handed it down. I just don't know that indefinite was the right thing to do per se. And I definitely just don't agree with the belt being stripped. Because if this gets resolved in the next 60 to 90 days, then what? Now you're saying, okay, well, now you're reinstated, and then what? You know what I mean? So it's to me, it's just, I just felt like it shouldn't have been to that degree. But again, I'm coming from a more biased place than maybe where everyone else is coming from.
I know you weren't physically there, but do you agree with the decision that they made last Tuesday? Excuse me. Did you try to convince them otherwise? Like, were you a part of that discussion? Were you on the phone? Were you something Skype, whatever? And did you try to say, look, guys, maybe Jon isn't in the right place to defend himself. Maybe he's got a lot going on in his mind, but I'm coming from, a cooler spot right now. This isn't the right call. Can't you just put him on ice? Can't you make an interim title? Did you try to do that, or did you just take it?
I'm not going to get into our conversations between me and the UFC, obviously, Ariel, because, it's a sensitive situation when it comes to that type of stuff. I'm just going to say that, there was a lot of discussions that happened. And, in the end, you know what I mean? This was the punishment that they gave, and this is what we're dealing with now.
When did you first meet Jon? Like, for the first time?
UFC 100.
Really? Okay, and he wasn't a client of yours, right?
No, he wasn't a client of mine. I met him UFC 100.
That's when he fought Jake O'Brien, correct?
Yeah.
And how did you meet him? Like,
Yep.
What were the circumstances?
He was around his old team, and his brother Arthur was there. And I caught him coming out of the weigh-ins. He was rehydrating. And I walked up to him and I told him, I said, hey, you know what I mean? I think that you're going to be, to be honest with you, at the time, I was still doing football. So
You had no MMA clients?
No, I did have MMA clients. I represented Thiago first and a bunch of other guys at the same time. But at the time, what's funny is that he had a brother who was playing for Syracuse that was a highly touted defensive lineman.
Yeah.
So I was really more interested in Arthur than I was in Jon. But I watched them fight at UFC 100 and instantly knew he was going to be the future of our sport. I knew it that day at UFC 100. So a lot of reasons why I knew he was going to be the best. Just watching him that fight, even though it wasn't one of his greatest fights at all. It wasn't even close to it. But it was more because of Arthur. I wanted to talk to Arthur more than anything. So Arthur was there. And I remember meeting Arthur real quick, but they were they weren't very, I was an agent. So it wasn't like, oh, hey, what's up? How you doing? Because he's very cool with fans and all that stuff. Both of them are. But when I came up, I said, hey, how you doing? I'm so-and-so's guy. They kind of both looked at me and were like, okay, well, what are you talking to us for? You know what I mean? So I just kind of introduced myself and just kind of kept it moving. But after I saw him fight, I knew that this guy was the truth. Like this is the kid that MMA needed.
So in July, that will be 6 years ago. And by the way, is someone calling you of importance?
Yeah, a lot of people are calling me that are more important than you, Ariel.
Damn.
I'm sorry.
All right. Fair enough. We appreciate the time. That's going to be in 6 years. UFC 100, right? That's 6 years. The 6-year anniversary of UFC 100 is this July. Can you honestly tell us that he is the same person? I mean, everyone grows up, everyone matures, but did the belt lead him down the wrong path? Has he made mistakes? Can you say that?
I can't say anything to that effect. I think you guys know the mistakes he's made or haven't made. I think what I can tell you, Ariel, is that, he's been a athlete since he was 12 years old. He was a pro athlete at 18, just like Kobe, just like LeBron. And I think that with being a pro athlete and being the face of an organization, okay, being the guy that had, and here's the difference. I mean, people don't get, LeBron walks into an organization like the NBA, and LeBron, is part of a system that's already been established, sponsors and this and that. And you come to MMA, and we're a relatively very new sport, and there's a lot of growing up that this sport has to do on all aspects of it, from the league itself to the athletes themselves, to the agents, to managers, to the media, everybody. I think there's a lot that still needs to be done here. And you get this kid, and you're the guy. You're the guy who's going to help us get the Nike sponsorships. You're the guy who's going to get Gatorade. You're the guy who's going to be the face. You're going to help us get the African-American demographic. And you're going to get America to jump on board like Canada and Brazil. And you're the guy, and you're the guy, and you're the guy, and you're the guy. And he was, very young when all this stuff hit him. And I can tell you that he's been an athlete this whole entire time, man. He's been the guy since he stepped foot into this organization. Probably about, a year after he became a UFC fighter. He was pretty much, the future of our sport. And what I can tell you is that I'm not going to blame anything on anything. I'm not going to tell you any mistake he's made or anything that, I can't sit there and pretend that Jon Jones makes mistakes because of a belt. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that any belt made Jon Jones. You know what I mean? I think Jon Jones is responsible for Jon Jones.
So you have invested almost 6 years in this guy and put a lot of time and effort, money, all that stuff. What was it like for you to wake up Wednesday morning? And at least right now, none of it exists anymore. The Reebok deal is gone. We've heard of other sponsors. The belt is gone. How did you process that?
I'm the best that I could. It hurts because I know what he's done to get to the point where he's gotten. So I know what he's been through. You know what I mean? I know what I've gone through. And, it's just, it is what it is. At the end of the day, we wake up, we're living, we're breathing, we've got families. You know what I mean? We've got friends, we've got people that we love and that we care about, and we know that we have to do what we have to do. You know what I mean? At least for me, that's just the way I feel. You know what I mean? I got other fighters I got to go tend to. I got a little girl that I got to be a dad to, and I got a mom that I got to be a son to, and brothers and sisters I got to be a family man to. So it's disappointing for all of us. I think the whole team. I mean, listen, think about it. You think Greg Jackson is happy? You think Izzy's happy? You think I'm happy? You think Arthur Jones, you think anybody's happy? I mean, we're all kind of like, okay, but we all know that we know what we got to do. And that's, I think, something that is a new motivation for us.
Do you know for sure that he will fight again?
No, I don't know that for sure.
How come?
I just don't. I don't know. It could very well be the last time we've seen Jon Jones into the octagon.
Really?
I think Jon Jones is gonna. I think Jon Jones is gonna focus on Jon Jones. I think that he's gonna take the time to do whatever he's got to do. And if this is the last time that we've seen him fight, it's the last time we've seen him fight, and I'm okay with that. I mean, that's why everybody's like, oh, when you ask that question about sponsorship and, what's it like for you to wake up? And I understand that there's things bigger than that. This is life we're talking about. This is, it's more than a business. He's my friend. I care about him a lot. And I'm perfectly fine. If he never comes back to the sport again, I'm okay with that. He's still go down as the greatest of all time. And no one's going to ever convince me otherwise. No other fighter's ever done what he's been able to do. And I don't think anyone's been able to impact the sport the way he has. And the reality of it is that you can try to bring him down any way you want. You can say the things he's done, didn't do, whatever. But I really do believe at the end of the day, he's the greatest of all time inside the octagon. No one can take that away from him.
Not that long ago, we heard GSP say, it's too much pressure. I need time off, right? And we haven't seen him come back. And then when Anderson lost to Chris Weidman for the first time, he was almost saying like, I don't want the rematch. I don't want the belt. He can have it. It's his time. Did the same thing happen to Jon? I mean, did all of this get to be too much where it took away his love and he was feeling the pressure and all that? And is that why you're saying this now?
No, I'm not saying this to you guys at all because I don't know if it was necessarily.
Did he ever tell you that it's wearing on him?
Listen, the things that me and Jon talk about, Ariel, between me and Jon, I'm not going to get into some of the details of things that we've said. What I can just tell you, and you guys can try to read between the lines, is that, I think every athlete comes to a point, and it's not just Jon Jones. I've had other guys who look in the mirror one day and they realize that a lot of it is just maybe sometimes too much. It's just too much. You know what I mean? If you don't fight a guy in 7 days' notice, you're trash. You know what I mean? If you stop a mugger, well, okay, great. You're great. Great guy. Thanks so much. Now you're the new world champion. You need to do these interviews. There's so much that goes into it. And it's not just him. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So you see it with GSP. You see it with Anderson. I think a big part of if he never comes back to the sport, Ariel, if he doesn't ever come back to the sport, it's because he doesn't want to come back to the sport. If it's because it was too much pressure, could be. If it was because of the belt, it could be. If the competition's too much, it could be. Whatever reason he decides is the reason why he won't come back to the sport. But it'll be solely on him. I'm not going to blame anything or anyone for anything Jon Jones does. You get where I'm coming from? And no one, the same token, can take credit for anything that Jon Jones does. Everything that's Jon Jones is Jon Jones. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Coaches can't pretend that they're the reason why he's winning fights. I can't pretend that he's a millionaire because of the sponsorship deals that we do or not. All these things happen because of, and all because of, Jon Jones. You follow what I'm trying to tell you? So if he decides to walk away from the sport, if this is the last time we've ever seen him fight, and it very well may be, then it's because it's a decision he's decided to make. It won't be because of something that you guys are perceiving to be a problem. It won't be because he's any of the negative headlines or the positive things he's done. It'll just be because he's figured that he's had it. Maybe that's it.
What does your heart say? Like deep down, what do you think? Do you think we'll ever see him fight again?
I don't know, man. I'm 50-50.
You're 50-50.
There's days I think he'll definitely come back, and there's days I think he's not coming back.
Did he ever at any point in this last week say, I am done, and then go back on his word? Because people are emotional. They say things, and then they calm down a little bit.
Again, the things he's told me and stuff that I've said like there, I'm not going to tell anybody he said. I'm not going to say what he said.
Fair enough. My little theory is if Daniel Cormier wins that belt on May 23rd and starts parading around town with it and saying, I'm the new champion, blah, 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 that might light a fire under him because of the way he feels about the guy. Him and Rumble seem to have a nice, cordial relationship. Not the case with Daniel. It didn't end like we've seen before with guys hugging it out. Could Cormier win kind of be the thing that gets him to come back and get off his couch,
I mean, let me ask you this question, Harold, first of all. If you're Daniel Cormier and you win this belt, right? You go parading around the world that you're the champion and you're this and you're that. Do you think anyone on the face of this earth can actually take you serious?
But he's going to do it, right?
Such a joke at that point. Huh?
He's going to do it. He's going to do it.
He can do whatever he likes.
Right.
I think that if that happens, listen, again, I'm going to say this to you again, Ariel, and I want to be very clear. If Jon Jones comes back to the sport of MMA, right?
Yeah.
It's going to happen because he wants to. Not because of Daniel Cormier, not because of me, not because of anybody. It's going to be because he wants to come back. And, I mean, that's all I got to say about
it. Okay. What are his next steps? Like, what does he do? I mean, because they haven't, the DA hasn't decided whether they're going to proceed with this case, right? Is that accurate?
I'm not going to talk anything about the case here.
Okay.
I'm not going to make clear right now. I'm not going to, can't do it.
Fair enough. Can you tell us, like, will he be doing any kind of rehab, like any of that in play here, or it's just all family time?
That's stuff that's between him and his family.
Okay. And final thing on him, it was made, very public that Reebok dropped him, right? They put out a statement. Have any of his sponsors stood by him?
You know what? It's not an appropriate time for me to discuss the sponsors right now. I'm going to let things kind of go, but I promise you at some point in the future, Ariel, I'm going to come back and I'll address a lot of the things with the sponsors. I'll address some things more in depth later on when I'm able to. Right now is not the time to talk about stuff like that. So I'm going to leave it alone, and that's for another day.
Okay, and I'm just curious, have you had a chance to see him in person? And if not, will you be seeing him in person soon?
I hope so.
But you haven't seen him yet?
No. Does it matter?
No, well, no. I'm just wondering. I was just wondering if you had a chance to meet up with him and talk to him.
Why you were so worried about me and Jon Jones is what I want to know. Why me and Jon Jones?
Why?
Can you just ask me a question about me or just Jon? Why is it me and Jon? You're like so infatuated with this me and Jon Jones thing.
What do you mean? You're his. I mean, every time I've ever seen Jon, I've seen you. You're his manager. You're his friend.
All right. Well, listen. Can we move on to a different subject?
Absolutely. But you don't understand where I'm coming from. I mean, it's not. It would be weird.
It was a joke.
Okay.
It was a joke.
Because it would be weird if I didn't ask you about Jon Jones. I feel like we discussed this prior. Okay, fair enough. I just had Junior Dos Santos on the show, and we were talking about Alistair Overeem. Is that the fight that's going to happen next for Overeem?
I would like for that to happen next.
Even if he can only come back in October?
I'm sorry?
Even if he's only ready in October?
Well, I mean, look, we were looking for a fight in July, August.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that if UFC's been kind of quiet on it. So if I can kind of take that as any indication, they're probably gonna push for that fight in October. If that's when he wants to come back, I got to get with Alistair and see if he wants to wait till October or if he wants to take a fight now in August and then maybe be ready to turn around and fight October, November. And that might be the case as well.
Okay, but that's what you want. Perfect world, that's what you want.
Yeah, I'd like to get Alistair a good top 5 fight now, and have him win and set him up for a title fight. Absolutely.
Because Junior seems to think that Alistair's only saying this now because he's injured. Like if he was healthy, he wouldn't be saying that he wants him.
But no, at the contrary, I didn't even know that he was out to this long.
Okay.
I mean, the truth and the fact of the matter is that, you know, when we talked about it, nobody said Junior was hurt. You know, we said, let's find out from the UFC if he's available. If he is, you know, let's push for that fight. So let me just put that, you know, rumor to bed right now. Alistair Overeem in no shape or form is saying it because he's hurt. We actually, when I spoke to Joe said I got to get with Dos Santos to find out what's his timetable to come back. So I don't even think they knew he was going to be out that long. So with that being said, you know what I mean, Junior, love you to death, bro. You're cool and all, but Alistair in no way, shape, or form is saying it because you're hurt. He's actually wants to fight you. But if it doesn't work out because of the timetable, then it doesn't work out.
You have a rare thing coming up on May 30th. 2 of your longtime clients, your first client, Thiago Alves, fighting Carlos Conde. What are you going to do that day?
I'm going to do the same exact thing I did when Carlos fought Tyron. Just do my job for both guys and stay out of it. And just, you know, hope, you know, that there's a good fight and no injury. This last one came out with Carlos getting his knee hurt, and I'm really hoping that, you know, this time, win or lose, that there's just no injury for any guy.
Is Woodley going to fight Hendricks next?
Well, I'm pushing for it. He really wants that fight bad. You know what I mean? I don't know if Hendricks wants that fight, to be honest with you. You know, listen, dude, let me tell you something. The guys I represent want to fight guys. You know what I mean? I've never had one of my fighters get called out by somebody and them call me and say, hey, man, I don't want to fight this guy. You know what I mean? Even Frank Mir, when Todd Duffy started calling him out, no reason to take that fight.
Sure.
Frank Mir called and said, I'll take that fight. So if you look at Tyron's Twitter accounts and on his social media, he's looking for that fight. He's begging for that fight. And I don't think Johnny wants that. Johnny wants no part of Tyron. I don't think there's a good fight for Johnny. You know what I mean? I think he wants to wait out and get the championship, and I can understand where he's coming from. But if I was him, I'd fight Tyron and shut Tyron up. Tyron could be annoying, dude, when it comes to that stuff. He's constant. I want that fight. So, I mean, you know, if you know, Johnny has any type of fight in him, then he'll fight Tyron. But I don't think he wants it.
And with July rapidly approaching and the UFC changing the way the Reebok deal is structured, it no longer goes by ranking, it goes by tenure. How do you feel about the deal as it stands right now? Do you have more information? Do you feel more comfortable? Because this is going to change, you know, it's going to change the industry. It's going to change perhaps how you do your job. How do you feel about it? It's rapidly approaching.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, you know, when John got the Nike deal back, when he got it, right, Ariel, I told everybody back then, I think I might have said on your show, and I know I said in interviews, to get prepared, because now will be the time that you'll find that the industry is going to start to change. Eventually, the UFC is going to have a league-wide sponsor. I think it took like a year and a half after that, or 2 years after that, and now here we are, where we're looking at Reebok sponsoring the whole full, you know, UFC. You get where I'm coming from? And I said that was going to happen. The reason why I like that deal is because I think for the UFC to be regarded as some of the other sports, football, baseball, basketball, you need that to be in play. Just like soccer, everybody has their own uniform and stuff. Now, the difference is like in soccer, you get a sponsor here or there that the league actually owns, the team owns, not the actual individual player. But what it's going to force agents to do is for us to go outside the octagon and start looking for the companies that can actually activate people away from the octagon. There's only going to be a handful of those guys anyway. Just like in NBA and in football, there's only a handful of guys that get the big shoe deals and the Nike deals and all this other stuff that they're, you know, you traditionally get in the other sports. MMA is not there yet when it comes to that. I don't think any one of our athletes is necessarily on the level of LeBron. You follow what I'm trying to say? The only one that was kind of getting there was John. And that's why he got so much interest from some of the bigger sponsors. But eventually you'll see somebody get there. And when that happens, that person will get the sponsors. And it's only going to be that one person or maybe 2 or 3. And then everyone else is going to get whatever they can find somewhere else. What I like about this Reebok deal is that it's going to give agents an opportunity, though, to go and sell a guy like a Jon Jones to these companies, you know what I mean, and hopefully get some of these deals done. So you might see someone with an Old Spice commercial or a Visa commercial or a Cadillac commercial. And there's, because when the sport looks more professional, that's going to happen. The downplay to that is, you know, you take a guy like a Carlos Condit who's popular in our sport, who might not be popular mainstream-wise, who might not be a big name to the average person, but in our sport is a big name, right? He's one of the more popular guys. He was making in the six figures. This is before the injury, 6 figures in sponsorship, right? In the total amount of sponsors. So when they came on and said, you're going to be making more money now and you're not going to have any issues getting paid, well, there's a lot of guys on my roster, like a Tyron Woodley, like a Carlos Condit, like a Thiago Alves, like an Alistair Overeem, that were making well over 30, 40, 50,000 a fight, especially if you take it over the course of a year. The guy's making $250,000, $300,000 a year. You break that up over the course of a month. What they're trying to pay them for one fight a year, or one fight that they fight, these guys are making that every single month. So now it's like, well, you replaced everything with just clothing. Well, some of my guys had clothing deals that were bigger than the actual Reebok sponsorship that they're getting now. So that's where I think it's going to change a lot of stuff. It's going to force us to go out and get other opportunities outside the octagon. The sad thing is I don't know if those opportunities are really going to be there. I don't know that there's going to be a lot of, extra Nas sponsorships, for example, for fighters outside the octagon.
Thank you very much.
Well, I mean,
thanks
you did a good job plugging it before the fact. Yeah.
Sure. I appreciate it. Have you started to work on that? Have you started to look around? Do you feel like there are some opportunities?
I have been for a while. I have been for a while.
Okay.
I have been for a while. If you guys go back, I mean, I'll give you an example. Look at Jon. When you saw him, when he was fighting, obviously his whole entire, for about the last, year and a half, 2 years, it's only been, big sponsors on his stuff. His shorts are always empty. It's just, it was Nike at one point and Gatorade, and Nike and EA Sports, Reebok and EA Sports, and that was it. There isn't any, we didn't put a lot of the traditional stuff on his shorts, and I've been doing that a lot, trying to, open the doors for some of the smaller guys through some of the bigger name guys, getting them some deals and then turn around and passing whatever we can around to some of the other people. And hopefully we'll be able to continue to get some stuff done, but it's going to be hard. I'm telling you, it's going to take a lot of these agents to get out there and do it for their biggest name client. Like if you took every big name guy, right? So if you got Ronda, let's say, obviously Jon before the situation, Jon, and maybe Kane, and you really start having all the agents push, because we're separate groups pushing different guys out there, you're going to see something hit here, something hit there, and then there's going to be the opportunity, because it takes, like, you look at what happened, right? We got the Nike deal for Jon, Reebok came into the sport. You go get Gatorade, now Powerade wants to come around, or you go get Monster, now, Nas might come around. And so I'm not looking at it like I have to be the guy to go get a deal with a certain person, but if, somebody else can go out and get something for one of the bigger name people, there's going to be an opportunity for us to go to their competitors and also, solicit some business and hopefully open it up for other guys, because there's only maybe 5 or 6 people in all of our sport that are mainstream people that can get these type of deals. But if those 6 people are taken up and there's a company that wants to get in and compete, then you might be able to get some of the mid-level guys also some of those opportunities, or at least on the very basic appearance level, show up here, let me use your name and likeness for a little bit type of thing. And there might be opportunities for some of the other fighters in this business. I just don't think that for 600 fighters on a roster, you're going to see a lot of that motion. It's going to be show up to a fight, here's your Reebok check, and call it a day. That's going to be it.
2 last quick things before I let you go. If this is the end of Jon Jones's career at 27 years old, is he comfortable? Does he, has he made enough? Is he good for the foreseeable future?
I mean, listen, I'm not going to comment, on that at all, because I think it's out of place or out of line for me to do that. But if he doesn't come back, I think he knows what he's doing. I think he'd make the right decision for himself and his family.
Do you think we will hear from him soon?
I think so. Hopefully one day, I'm sure.
One day, of course, one day. I hope so.
Maybe.
Okay.
So, yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Great to have you on the show, Malki. A pleasure as always.
It's always good to be on the show. Same here, buddy.
Thanks for giving us some time out of your day. I know you probably have 85 missed calls there, so get back to doing what you do. Appreciate the time, and best of luck to you and the team.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
There he is, Malki Kawa, stopping by. First Round Management. Check him out, firstroundmanagement.com. We appreciate the insight as always.